Okay, apparently I cannot add people to my live. It's just not going to work. So I'm just going to have Ultrafeast alone, and you guys will have to comment to me so that I don't feel so lonely. Welcome back. We're back at Live and Let Dine. I tried to add Viking Queen Power, and it just didn't work. So we're just going to keep going. Alright, and we're back. Welcome to Live and Let Dine, the Ultrafeast menu for 2021. Currently, I am eating the Octopus Seafood Tower, so there's shrimp and sashimi. This is pretty good. Oh, Happy New Year! Happy New Year to you too. It is now New Year's Day. That's pretty exciting. I kind of can't believe it's 2021, because I feel like it's kind of still March, but here we are. Happy 2021. So this is Octopus Seafood Tower, shrimp and sashimi. I have a ton of food, so I'm actually going to move on to the next course, which is The World Is Not Enough. So this is actually a deviled egg that I have topped with salmon roe. And I'm pretty excited for this. I had never tried salmon roe before. So we're going to see how this goes. Okay, it's like super salmon-y, gelatinous balls that explode in your mouth. I'm not sure how I feel about this yet. The deviled egg is good though. It's a great way to eat hard-boiled eggs in my opinion, because I don't particularly like hard-boiled eggs. I'd prefer them soft-boiled, but it's pretty good. I asked earlier what everyone's favorite Bond movies are, and I don't remember if I shared or not. Mine is Goldfinger. It was my favorite Bond movie when I was a kid, and I just loved it so much. The image of the girl in gold on the bed has always stuck with me, whether that's appropriate or not. I always thought it was very interesting. So I answered this in the first part of my Ultrafeast, but I wanted to answer it again because we're now at part 2, and that's how I know how many calories to eat and what macros to eat. So those are actually calculated by my coach. He gives me my calorie goal and my macro split. So for me, right now, I'm doing about 50% protein and then 50% of my calories from fat. And when I first started carnivore, I would like track, not because I was trying to do anything specific with my tracking, but because people would ask, and so I would track to see what my macro split was, and it was about 70% fat, 30% protein. So now it's more of a 50-50 split, and I feel really good at that split. I don't feel deprived at all. I do tend to supplement fat rather than eating fatty meats, and I find that helpful because it's just an easier way to control how many macros I'm getting of each. So, for example, instead of eating like fatty ground beef, I would eat leaner ground beef, and then I would actually add butter or other fat to it instead of eating the fatty ground beef. That's just kind of how I manage it and how I structure getting my macros in. The other thing I do to make sure that I get the correct amount of macros is I will eat the same breakfast every day, and I find that very helpful because I kind of have a baseline for where I'm going from there throughout the day if I know my breakfast is the same. What is the Ultrafeast ratio? I don't know. I don't know what the Ultrafeast ratio is. It's probably like 80% fat, 20% protein. Okay. Shall we move on to the next course? Kind of over the deviled eggs. They're not my fave. These deviled eggs are good, I should say. I just don't prefer deviled eggs. But the world is not enough, so they had to happen. I literally eat the same breakfast every day. That's not a lie, right? all of my food is kind of like spread out on the floor here so that I can grab it easily. Give me just a moment. The next one I'm very excited for. It's golden fry after golden eye. And what I did was I fried up some halloumi. And then this is Carnivore Ranch. I got the recipe from UK Carnivore Tips. It's Military Intelligence Ranch 6. Champagne calories. I believe it's all carbs. And it's about 100 calories per glass. I know this because I drink it quite often. Ah, Tannen, welcome. My sister has joined the live. Is there a story about your love? I don't understand the question. I don't know. Is there a story for your love of Bond? Yes, my dad was obsessed with James Bond movies, and we would watch them all the time as a child. We had all of them on VHS, I believe, and we would go to the movie theater and watch them together, like as they came out. And it's just such a big part of my childhood. And then this year, I actually went through and I watched them all again. And I have to say, my favorite is still Goldfinger, but if you're looking for just a hilarious time, you have to watch In Her Majesty's Secret Service. It is ridiculously hilarious. It's one of those movies where it's so bad it's good. It's so bad though. Like there's a scene where they're doing a mountain chase down, like they're in a car. It's Bond and the Bond girl, and they're doing the high-speed chase down the mountain road. And every once in a while, she just slaps him. Like she just turns and slaps him. They're on this curvy mountain road. She just starts slapping him. It's hysterical. And then there's this whole thing about brass balls where if you're like not homophobic, it doesn't make any sense. So definitely a movie not made for these times, but still funny. So yeah, that's why I love James Bond movies so much. Just fond memories of childhood. I mean, yeah, I feel like the James Bond movies are not for everyone. They are kind of ridiculous, and watching them in 2020 is kind of funny because they are very sexist. I mean, there's no other way to put that. They're just sexist movies. But my favorites would be Skyfall. I think that's the best Daniel Craig one. And then Goldfinger, as I've mentioned, is my favorite one from childhood. And then In Her Majesty's Secret Service is definitely the one you need to watch if you just want to laugh. I actually want to watch that one again and just make fun of it. I did get another question when I asked in my stories earlier this week, and it was, what made you decide to pursue training for a bikini competition? So if you don't know, my big goal for 2021 is to compete in a bikini competition in June or July of this year. And kind of the impetus for that is about 5 years ago, I was just puttering around on YouTube and I found some bikini competitor YouTubers, and it just seemed really interesting to me. And I've always really admired people who were able to do that, because even people who take steroids, there's still a certain level of dedication of showing up and doing the work that has to happen in order for you to be stage ready. And I admire that so much. I would like to, be that dedicated. And I think that this is a really great way to do that and show my dedication to my goal and get on that stage and just really make myself proud. So yeah, that's why I want to do a bikini competition. It's not really anything profound. It's just, I saw it, I was interested, I've been thinking about it for 5 years, and I finally feel ready to do it. So I'm going to. Okay, I think we're ready for the next course, which is The Spy Who Loved Brie. Spy Who Loves Brie. Yeah. Spy Who Loved Brie. No. Is it loved or loves? Someone Google it for me. Lord help me. Okay, next up. Spy Who Loved Brie. So here we have this fabulous cheese plate. If you don't know me, you don't know that I'm all about charcuterie. This is an English cheddar, manchego, Stilton, and then brie. And I made these pepperoni chips. These are really easy to make. If you take just normal packaged pepperoni and you microwave it for a minute, it turns really crispy, so you can have kind of a cracker effect. And I think it's really great if you want to do something like this, but keep it carnivore. You still get that like snappy crunch, but it's carnivore. It's pretty awesome. So I think someone else asked me a question, and it was something like, what is a movie you hate that everyone else likes? And this is going to be a really unpopular opinion. And I wasn't sure if they were talking about Bond movies or just movies in general. Because if it's a Bond movie, then it would be Casino Royale. It's not my favorite. I think that the plot gets kind of slow. They could move forward a little faster. But then, I don't know, I like the plot line. I just wish the movie moved quicker. Happy New Year! And if it's just general movies, I don't know, I kind of like all movies. But I do think some movies are really ridiculous. Like, I can't stand rom-coms. I'll just make fun of them the whole time. The whole time. Like, for example, there's this one movie, and it's like the quintessential romantic movie, The Notebook. And there's this one part where they're like doing it for the first time, and she looks at him and she says, "What are you thinking?" And it makes me crack up every time, because it's just like, that's not okay. Ooh, Pulp Fiction. I love Pulp Fiction. I'm not gonna lie. It is kind of a long movie. Like, I wish it would hustle up a little bit. There's so many plot lines in it. But yeah, I do like Pulp Fiction. That's not true of every Quentin Tarantino movie, though. Some of them are not great. So yeah, that would be my answer to that question. And then someone else asked what my future Ultrafeast plans are. So I'm going to actually take a bite of this. If you have not tried pepperoni chips, like, I would not be offended if you left my live right now to go buy them and try them. That's how much I think you should try them. I would not at all be offended. Someone just asked if I'm coming off a fast. No. I eat 3 meals a day. I tried OMAD briefly, and it just didn't work for me. I really like breakfast, and I like the routine of getting up and having breakfast. And I just find it much easier to eat a traditional 3 meals a day. But that's just a personal choice. And I don't really fast ever. When I first started keto, I did do intermittent fasting. So I'd stop eating around 7, and then I wouldn't eat again until 1. So I had like a 6-hour eating window, I think. That worked really well for me when I was doing keto. I lost, I think, like 20 pounds in 6 months, but I'd have to go back and look. And that was my main goal with keto. And I found a lot of benefits on keto. It helped with a lot of my joint pain and my mood, but I don't know, carnivore is better, guys. I just feel freaking awesome all the time. The longer I'm on carnivore, the better I feel. So I highly recommend it. If you haven't tried it, I think it's worth a go. Are we ready for the next? Someone asked, how many calories do you average during your bikini prep? So currently I am on a mini cut, and that's in preparation for my show dates. So they don't release show dates until January, so I can actually start looking and seeing when I can have my show in June or July. So during the mini cut, I was at 1,450 calories per day. And then once we get my show date, then I'll go into a bulk phase. And during the bulk, it'll be higher. So the goal would be to keep my body weight the same and just recomp, so lose whatever little body fat I can while building muscle. So I don't know what those calories look like yet, but during the mini cut, it's been 1,450. And I don't think that's appropriate for everyone. That was calculated for me based on my TDEE, and then subtracting, I think it was like, I don't want to say because I'm going to be wrong, but it's just a low caloric maintenance, and I've been losing weight slowly and steadily. It's actually been a really good cut. I've never felt deprived or frustrated. So I've been really happy with both my calories and my macro split right now. So the next menu item here is quantum of scallops, like quantum of solace. Anyone? It's fine. That one's not my best. Okay, so here we have scallops, and these I just fried in butter. I think scallops are really easy. The hard part is just remembering to wash them really well, and that way you don't get like sand in your mouth. I mean, let's just be honest here. That's the risk with scallops, is the sand. But yeah, I've really been enjoying my prep. I've really been enjoying my workouts, and just really focusing on progressive overload and making sure that I am lifting as heavy as I can, as much as I can. And yeah, my coach is really good about making sure that I have a good balance of dynamic compound movements, so things like squats and deadlifts, and then also a lot of machine work. And I believe he does that so that I don't risk injury to myself. So typically with things like squats and deadlifts, and where I'm moving more dynamically and using more of my muscle mass, it'll be higher weight but lower rep. And then if I'm on the machines, it's typically lower weight, higher rep. And I really find that to be a good balance because it kind of satisfies that itch I have to lift heavy, but then I'm also getting all of the hypertrophy benefits. And that may change as I go into the next part of my prep, which again will be maintenance, aka recomp. You guys, I'm not going to brag, but I'm really good at making scallops. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I spent a lot of time coming up with the puns for this menu. Like, I think it's been like 2 years of creating this list of puns. And there were more that I didn't add, but yeah, I'm kind of saving those in the bank. Which leads me to my next point, which is someone asked what my future Ultrafeast plans are. And I plan on doing many more Ultrafeasts and doing many more themes. And I think it'd be interesting to see what kind of themes you guys would like to see. I'm kind of open to doing whatever. It doesn't have to be a movie. I don't know. I think anything could be fun. I will happily make and eat all of the food anytime. Anytime. So because Goldfinger is my favorite, I thought it would be fun to put gold flakes in the champagne. But because champagne is so, I don't know, I thought it would be lighter and would like float down. But it's not, it's just at the top. So every time I take a sip, it's just like, bam, metal. I don't recommend it. I think scallops are really good if you don't like seafood because it's so mild. It's like a good way to get seafood in your diet without really being super seafoody. I would say stay away from the salmon roe. Ooh, Phantom of the Opera Ultrafeast. Yes, that would be so cool. You guys will have to put up with me singing. But there it is. That would be fun. I would do that in a heartbeat. I agree. Scallops do taste sweet. And it's interesting because I think there's that balance of what you add to it. Like, I almost feel like if you oversalt it, it'll make the sweetness more pronounced. Whereas if, I normally very heavily salt my food, but with scallops, I normally do butter and like minimal salt. And I think that helps cut some of the sweetness if that's not what you're looking for. If you do want them to taste sweet, I would add more salt. It's kind of my scallop trick. It's not really a trick, just how I make them taste less sweet. So next up is Crostini Royale, and I have a lot to say about this, so I'm gonna move forward. Jeremiah Bullfrog Ultrafeast. I don't know what that means. Is it just the song? Am I just doing the Jeremiah Bullfrog song? Or is that a thing I'm not aware of? That suggestion was from my grandma, by the way. Pretty sure. Okay, I'm very excited about this one, guys. This is Crostini Royale, and yes, this is way too much food for one person. So I've made a couple of things here that were firsts for me. So starting with the tartare, and then I made chicken liver pate, Lord help me. And then I made slutty eggs. If you don't know, slutty eggs are the best eggs. They're not scrambled eggs. They're emulsified butter and egg, and it is so good. Slutty eggs with salmon roe, and then cream cheese and smoked salmon. I'm so excited for this, you guys. It's gonna be so good. So my goal with this was to make it a tasting menu because I knew it was going to be just me and I didn't want to like have a ridiculous amount of food to eat, and yet here we are. This is a ridiculous amount of food to eat for one person. I think when we're allowed to be in person again, it would be fun to do an Ultrafeast in person. Someone wants to know how to make slutty eggs. So what you do is you take a cold pan and you add a pat of butter and 2 eggs. And then you stir over low medium heat until the eggs and the butter emulsifies. And they should be creamy, you don't want to overcook them. And I don't know, it's just like really creamy eggs, and they taste like butter with some egg. It's like the eggs are the vehicle for the butter, and it just multiplies the butter flavor. So what I did for this was I made cloud bread. Yes, so how did I make the crostini themselves? So this is cloud bread. I just found a recipe online. I think it's just eggs and cream cheese. You whip the egg whites with some cream of tartar, and then you mix the cream cheese, egg, and salt. And I made them intentionally really small and flat. Like I actually pressed down on the batter before I put it in the oven. And then I let them sit out so they became, I don't want to use the word crusty, but mildly stale, so that it would be more of like a crisp taste. I think if I did it again, I would actually put them under the broiler for a couple minutes, because these actually got a bit soggy with the toppings on them, but it's still really tasty. How do you make the pan cold, or is it room temperature? Yeah, it's just a room temperature pan for slutty eggs. I just meant don't heat the pan before you put the ingredients in. So like I mentioned, this was my first time making tartare, and I just made sure my knife was super sharp and found a cut of beef that didn't have as much connective tissue in it and cut it really tiny, mixed it with an egg. It's really good. And then the chicken liver pate is the next one I'm going to go for. I cooked the chicken livers in a pan full of butter, like a lot of butter. Happy New Year! And cooked them quite well, and then blended them up with some heavy whipping cream and more butter in a blender. And, oh, yes, and thyme. I put thyme in it as well, and it came out really good. I was surprised. This is actually my first time eating pate, so I was pretty impressed with myself. Harry Potter themed Ultrafeast? Yes, absolutely. So I actually have a list of Ultrafeast ideas, and Harry Potter is absolutely on there. And in fact, I was so excited about Ultrafeast, I dreamed about it the other night, and I dreamed about Draco Malfoy. And I thought it would be great to have Draco Malfoy gras. I don't know, maybe it's too forced. You don't have to like it, it's fine. Hello, hello. I think Harry Potter would be super fun. And I want to wear all the costumes. So, you know what would be really fun is figuring out how to make butterbeer, but as carnivore as possible or as keto as possible. That would be fun. Or like recreating the food they talk about in there. Do I plan on doing Ultrafeast more often than once a year? If you ask me today, I'm going to say no, because I'm a little bit scarred by all the food I had to make. It was very stressful, and I enjoyed it, but I think I made this menu a little too big for one person. Harry Potter is going to be great. There's so many possibilities. I completely agree. I definitely feel like that's one we should save for when we can do it, like, as a group. If I could find, like, a group of people and we could do Ultrafeast together, that would be so much fun. Like I said, this is just a lot of food for one person. I'm not complaining at all. I'm just saying it seems a little excessive. So the reason I wanted to do Ultrafeast Carnivore this year is I really just wanted to show, I think that there's a lot of conversation about carnivore being a restrictive diet, and I disagree. Even if I were to eat bacon, eggs, and steak every day, I still wouldn't feel restrictive because I'd get to eat bacon, eggs, and steak every day. So I really think it's a matter of perspective, but I also wanted to show what you can do with a carnivore diet, and I think that this is really cool because it's almost like a normal tasting menu in the sense that there's a lot of different things, and it's a little bit fancier than my typical meals. If you follow me, you'll know I'm kind of the queen of low effort content. I like to make quick and simple meals, and that's kind of my quote unquote bread and butter on my posts. But I also think that there's a lot of potential for carnivore in terms of being fun and unique and coming up with new ideas and trying new things. So yeah, that's Carnivore Ultrafeast. The Ultrafeast I've done in the past have not been this elaborate. Typically we'll do something like filet mignon and lobster tails. When I did do Ultrafeast with my family this year for Christmas, we had that cowboy wagyu steak that my bosses gave me for Christmas, and we had lobster tail. So typically it's something more like that. And then I made green beans and twice baked potatoes for the non-carnivores in my home. I forgot to say, I tried the cream cheese and smoked salmon. That was really good. And then the slutty eggs with the salmon roe. That was really good too. Thank you, Lady Eats Meat Pray Love. That is so sweet. I appreciate you. So this was Crostini Royale. And it was really good. But I think we need to move on. So next up is You Only Live Twice Baked Meatloaf. And I got this idea from Twice Baked Potatoes. And this, I have to say, is one of the most exciting things for me on this menu, just because I maybe already tried it and it's really good. Okay, so this is a twice baked meatloaf. What I did was I made meatloaf and I used ground beef, ground pork, and then I used ground up pork rinds and an egg to bind it. And then I cooked it in a muffin tin, and then I kind of scooped out the inside and filled it with, this mixture of cream cheese, sour cream, and cheddar cheese. And I will say this was probably better when it was warm, but after I scooped out the insides and I still had some of the inside filling left, I went ahead and I dipped that in the filling and had that as a snack, and it was really good. But I definitely recommend this, and I actually have a bunch of the meatloaves left over because I had to cook, the whole pound of ground beef and the pound of ground pork. So I think that these would be really fun to meal prep and just have as tasty little bites. Oh, and then the ground pork rinds. That was kind of a pain. I ended up using a blender, and you need an S-blade blender. Like, you don't want the ones with the forks and the knife. I don't know what it's called. I'm going to stop trying to talk like I know what it's called. It's an S-blade blender, and what it does is it grinds it up without cutting it, because if you use a normal blender blade, it just turns to mush because of all the fat in it. And it worked pretty well, I will say. You kind of want to grind up the pork rinds into smaller pieces before you try putting them in the blender. Otherwise, you're going to have one heck of a time, like I did. Okay guys, this is really good. I'm a big fan. And I cooked the meatloaf at 350 for about 25 minutes, and that was perfect. So yeah, I'd like to do Ultrafeast more often. I do think that it's kind of a lot for one person to try to make all this food, and for me, I was taking pictures of everything. But I think it would be really fun to do this as like a Zoom call or with people in person. Yeah, I definitely want to do more Ultrafeast though. It's pretty great. Personally, I really like dinosaurs, so I would really like to do a Jurassic Park themed one featuring a lot of birds because they're modern day dinosaurs. Viking Queen Power wants to do it with me next time. I want to do Ultrafeast with you too. I think that would be really cool. We kind of tried to do it together and it didn't really work out. But next time in person, for sure. What would you want the theme to be? I will definitely be eating more of this later. But let's move on. Next up is Dr. Gnocchi, and I am so excited about this because I wasn't sure how this would turn out, and it came out so good. And definitely, if you miss pasta, this is a good alternative. Oh, another vote for Phantom of the Opera. that's pretty exciting. You know, I only... Rocky Horror Picture Show. Yes. Yes. Oh, yeah, we'll do meatloaf. Of course. Dr. Frankenfurter, come on. We're gonna have hot dogs. That makes so much sense. Guys, the puns are just coming to us. What if for Rocky we did Rocky Mountain oysters? I mean, I don't want to eat them, but it's just too good. Okay, so this is Dr. Gnocchi. Sorry, I get easily excited by Rocky Horror Picture Show. This is Dr. Gnocchi, and what I did for the gnocchi is, it was kind of gross when I was doing it. I sing hot patootie. Yes. The Dr. Oh my gosh, I'm so distracted by this idea. So this is Dr. Gnocchi, and what I did for the gnocchi is I ground up 200 grams of raw chicken breast and 2 eggs. It was disgusting. I was not a big fan of it while I was doing it. But what I did was I put it into a bag, and I cut off the end, and I cut the pieces of gnocchi out into boiling water like you would for traditional gnocchi, and it turned out so well. I was really impressed. And then after about 30 seconds, I took it all out and fried up some butter in a pan and went ahead and added the gnocchi just so it got a little bit of color to it. And then I removed the gnocchi, and in the pan with the butter, I added heavy whipping cream and some Parmesan cheese and made this cream sauce. So I'm pretty excited about this. Honestly, if you're missing pasta, you have to try this. And the mixture was sticky enough. I think you could do a spaghetti-like noodle with it. I'd be interested if someone tried to see how that turned out. You missed the scallops course. Yes, I am planning on making like little recipe graphics for everything I made today. I was going to film it all, and I filmed most of it, but I was having so many technical difficulties, we'll call it, that I just don't know that I would feel proud to put those up, but I'll definitely put the recipes up for everything. That is really good. I have to say, this, I think this might be my favorite thus far. I think you could also put the pasta mix into, like, it could be like a dough. I think would be interesting. Yeah, like lasagna noodles, or even like a pot pie crust. I think you could definitely do that. I think the lasagna noodles would be interesting because it is such a paste. Maybe if you spread it out on parchment and then baked it, but I would have to do some experimentation there. Ooh, yes. I love Brazilian steakhouses. Like, anywhere that's gonna come by and bring me meat on sticks endlessly, I'm a big fan of. That's my, like, go-to special occasion restaurant. So next up is license to grill. Yeah, like if you wanted to make this in a lasagna, I would definitely bake it kind of like crepes. That could work. Again, I'd have to try it. It is like a really sticky paste, so I think dropping it out of a baggie like you do for gnocchi worked well, or spaghetti noodles would work well. I'm just not quite sure on the execution for turning into lasagna noodles. I'll look into it. Alright guys, we're on our second to last course. This is Licensed to Grill, and these are lamb chops that I grilled inside. I don't have a fancy inside grill, but I do have the, oh, they don't bring it out to you at the Brazilian steakhouse. You walk to a counter and ask them what you want and how much. So I could go up there and just be like, filet and bacon. Keep it coming. Because that's my one complaint, is they end up bringing, like, walking by with the same meats over and over. And it's like, I just want the filet with bacon, please. Thank you. This is Licensed to Grill. I grilled it on my Cuisinart griddler is what it's called. And I just did a couple minutes each side. I haven't actually looked inside yet, so we'll see how I did. Yeah, I went to Fogo de Chao kind of a while ago. Maybe it was back in May. And they brought it out to me still. And that was really good. Give me all your filet and bacon. I'm worried what you heard me say was bring me a lot of filet and bacon. Ooh, that sounds good. I do love ribs and brisket and sirloin. So I guess I wouldn't be able to choose. I cooked this pretty well. Typically, I would probably want my lamb to be, excuse me, a little more rare. To be fair though, I am eating all of my food cold because it's been sitting here. Oh, New Jersey has strict rules. Yeah. It's crazy how different things are everywhere. Oh, someone wanted a recap on the gnocchi. So it's 200 grams of raw chicken breast blended with 2 eggs, and then it turns into a paste. And then I put that in a baggie, and I cut it out like you do for normal gnocchi into boiling water. And it worked really well. I boiled it for about 30 seconds and then pulled it all out, melted butter in a pan, and kind of fried it just to get some color on it. Ooh, I do love bacon wrapped chicken. That all sounds really good. I definitely plan on going to Fogo de Chao for the next big event. Special occasion? What am I trying to say? Sure thing. I don't know if you guys saw my martini video in which I attempted to make a martini. But I tried again. So yeah, it's still just vodka. Yes, going to a Brazilian steakhouse would be an awesome way to start National Carnivore Month. Ultrafeast is another great way to start it. Eating eggs and bacon would also be a great way to start it, or a steak. Basically any carnivore food. I will take one of each. My favorite dish so far was definitely the Dr. Gnocchi. It was so, I mean, it is so good. I still have like 2/3 of it left, which I'm going to eat. But I was really surprised at how well the pasta turned out. 3-day egg fast. I heard a couple people are doing egg fasts, and I could get on board because I do love slutty eggs. But I also love steak and Stilton, so. So with lamb, I've found it's very hit or miss to find good lamb. Apparently, if you get non-New Zealand lamb, it's older when it's killed, and then it's very lamby. So I actually prefer the New Zealand lamb, even if it's a little more sad. What's your drink? Okay, so this is champagne with gold flakes in it, which is annoying. And then this is a quote-unquote martini. It's just gin and vodka with some bitters and a twist of lemon. I actually made a video making this, and I believe it's in my lives. No, IGTV. I'm really excited for World Carnivore Month. I think it's going to be awesome. I think there's a lot of opportunity to bring people on board with carnivore and just make people more aware of carnivore and the potential health benefits they could have if they ate a carnivore diet. So I'm very excited. I hope that we're able to just really be good examples of carnivory and what carnivore can do for people's lives. I think that's awesome. All right, that was Licensed to Grill, which means we have one more course, and it kind of melted in the time we've been sitting here. Someone asked, how long does eating take for you? I eat ground beef steaks, take hours. Ooh, yeah, I'm kind of a slow eater, just generally, and yeah, I get that. Steaks can take a long time to eat. I think that it typically probably takes me 20 minutes to eat a meal. Someone just asked, where's your gun? Which one? I have 2 Glocks, an HK shotgun, and an AK style pistol. So I'll need more information. Cutting out keto snacks and just have meat and eggs and fish. Yeah, I found that difficult too. I was never a keto person who ate a lot of like keto snacks, but it was really, really great when I switched to carnivore because I found a lot of carnivore snacks like beef jerky or those beef sausage sticks. How much time you spent for cooking and preparing for today? Cooking, I've been cooking nonstop for the past 2 days, guys. And then preparing for today, I've been kind of planning this for I think 2 months now. My sister just said, lol, always been slow eater. I remember my mom made a rule at one point at our dinner table that the last person to finish eating had to clean up, and it was because one of my brothers just would not stop talking during meal times, and I was just naturally a slow eater. And so I would always have to, clean up because I would eat so slow. Okay, AK pistol I want so bad. I will put it in my story after the live. How about that? Deal? Okay, the last one is the dessert. And I wasn't initially going to do a dessert, but I figured out how to make a carnivore, and the pun was just too good to miss out. Yeah, I grew up with fast eaters too. So, yeah, I had no chance. I was always cleaning up after dinner. This is froyo eyes only. So I made a carnivore froyo. This is Greek yogurt and heavy whipping cream that I blended together. Let me back up. Excuse me. I heated heavy whipping cream and egg yolk and vanilla in a saucepan, and I let that come to a slow simmer. And then once the vanilla had steeped in the heavy whipping cream, I let that cool down for quite a bit of time. And then I had Greek yogurt that I added a bit of vanilla to, and I kind of like the balance there because you have the more like sparkly, bright, fresh vanilla taste from in the Greek yogurt, and then you have that kind of deeper, rich, caramely vanilla taste from when I steeped it in the heavy whipping cream. So it's a really great combo, and this is definitely a treat. And then just to make it fancy, I put gold on the top. Hopefully I don't get heavy metal poisoning. It'll be fine. It is so creamy. I will say it's more like ice cream than froyo. Like, it has that sour, tangy kind of flavor to it like froyo, but it's definitely creamier like ice cream. That is tasty. Like I said, I wasn't going to do a dessert, but I'm glad I did. Someone said any sweet taste, glycine tastes. I can't read the rest of the comment, I'm sorry. I don't understand why it's taking a while to come up. I didn't add anything to this. You totally could. Glycine tastes awful, in my opinion. Yeah, I don't prefer artificial sweeteners either. That's why I didn't add any to this. And I think too, if you've been on carnivore for a while, it is kind of harder to eat sweet things and not feel like it's too sweet. This is really good, guys. Like I said, I'll post all of the recipes. I may do videos for some, maybe not, I don't know. Yes, it's melted now because I've been sitting here talking to you guys, but it is very creamy like ice cream. I really like it. I do think if desserts are something you've been missing, this could be a good occasional treat. It is a lot of dairy, and I know a lot of people are trying not to eat dairy this month. Not me, though. I'm going to eat all of the dairy. So let me check and make sure that I answered everyone's questions. Ooh, this is a good one. Thank you. You guys are so kind. Benefits you've experienced from carnivore as the year went on. I would say pretty initially I had weight loss and mental clarity. And then over time I realized that the mental clarity was more than just the anti-fog that I got from keto. It was more actual clarity. I've talked about this before, but I was diagnosed with OCD, and a lot of those behaviors were really difficult for me to just live life with. I would have to check that my door was locked all the time. So I would try to leave the house and I'd have to go back 20 times to check that the door was locked. I'd get halfway down my stairs and then have to go back and check that the door was locked. I'd get all the way to my car and then have to go back and make sure that the door was locked. And throughout the years, I've done different things to try and manage that. I've been on medication, I've done behavioral therapy, but ultimately when I started carnivore, those compulsive thoughts went away. Like, it was incredible. I didn't think that it could be Jan, dairy. That's funny. I didn't think that it would be possible to be off medication and feel comfortable leaving my home without having to check the door. So 100%, that was one of the biggest things for me starting carnivore, was just not having those obsessive thoughts anymore. And it was incredible. So I definitely think that that was one of the biggest benefits. And I know that my quote unquote transformation isn't as pronounced as some in terms of my physical changes, but I definitely think carnivore has so many benefits beyond weight loss. And I know a lot of people start it for weight loss, but if you're kind of on the fence and you're thinking about trying carnivore, I'd give it a shot for 30 days. What's the worst that could happen? It changes your life. Like, it really could. Awesome. And then some other benefits I had was, I used to get really dry skin. I don't really get that anymore. I don't have dandruff anymore. My skin cleared up dramatically. I have a before and after in one of my posts showing my skin transformation. That was pretty pronounced. Joint pain was a big one for me. I actually have scoliosis, and so it kind of just messes up all my joints below my hips. And I would just get such extreme joint pain. It would be really, really difficult to work out or sometimes even walk. I would get these, it would be like a dull aching pain and then sharp shooting pain randomly. So I would never know when I wouldn't be able to move in a way that I needed to. And I was actually hiking a 14er. So 14ers here are mountains that are over 14,000 feet high. And I was hiking a 14er and I started getting that pain. I was like, I need to get off this mountain. So yeah, the joint pain thing was a huge one for me. I actually don't experience that joint pain anymore. I still do things to kind of manage it. I do a lot of yoga and stretching, and I weight lift to try and strengthen the muscles around the joints, but I don't have the inflammation that I used to. Dry eyes. I live in a very dry climate, so sometimes like at the end of the day when I'm wearing contacts, my eyes will be dry. Trying to think if that's something I've noticed. I don't think I've ever like really suffered from dry eyes, so I can't say yes or no on that one. My gum health is very improved. My dental hygienist is very impressed with that. I was telling her about carnivore. She's actually doing keto now. The other thing about making this menu is I had to make so much food. Because like when you buy food, it's all in larger quantities. So I'll be eating this for days. It's a live and let dine week for me. I have a whole list of things I experienced from carnivore. And there's weird things too. Like, I don't get canker sores anymore, which I used to. Like, wound healing is super quick. Smelly issues on carnivore. Please define smelly. I did notice that it's weird. Really? Okay, that's interesting, because I was going to say one of the benefits I noticed on carnivore is, like, not that I wouldn't bathe, but you can go a little longer between bathing because you don't have BO. Like, deodorant is kind of irrelevant for me now. It's interesting. Do you eat to satiety? Because your current meal plan seems too little for... I'm sorry, the comment is cut off at the bottom. I feel satisfied the way that I eat. I do have a calorie goal and macro goals, but I kind of structure the food that I eat to be satisfied. So I'll do stuff like I have bacon and eggs every morning because that's what I love to eat, and I wouldn't want to deprive myself of that. And then I also make sure that I'm getting enough protein, and that kind of leverages, I'm not going to use that word, take it back. I eat enough protein so that I feel full and don't have to eat as much fat. I didn't think you could take food home from Brazilian steakhouses because it's like all you can eat. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I feel satisfied with the food that I eat. And like I said, I just plan it so that I'll feel satisfied. I eat the foods I like, the foods I can afford, and the food that fits my macros. On SAD, I don't think for 10 days, carnivore 1 day. Yeah, I had the reverse experience of that. That's interesting. Oh, you paid extra for the extra meat, of course. Like I said, I'll be eating live and let dine leftovers for days. Well, like I said, this is the last course. I've answered all the questions. So did you have any additional questions that I can answer for you while I'm here? You guys are definitely welcome to DM me anytime, and I'm happy to share my experience with you in terms of carnivore benefits or tips and tricks for when you're starting, or if you have any questions. I'm always happy to answer those. Hair issues. I actually don't lose hair like I used to. Like, I used to shed hair a lot, and now my hair grows super quick. If you mean like, but also, I mean, if your hair grows super quick, your body hair will grow super quick too, so I am spending more on razors now. That's kind of annoying. Beef ribs, pork ribs, roast beef, brisket, and top sirloin. Those are some good leftovers. For your usual routine, how does alcohol fit into your macros? So, alcohol in carnivore is really interesting. I typically only have 1 or 2 drinks a week. This week has been different with New Year's, but I typically limit it to 1 or 2 drinks a week. And I do notice that it hits you so much harder. I don't know if it's an actual effect on your blood alcohol level or if it's simply your body doesn't process it the same way. Excuse me, but I've definitely noticed I just need way less alcohol to get to a certain level of drunk. So I really don't recommend drinking a ton, especially if you've been doing carnivore and all of a sudden you decide to drink. Did you play GoldenEye for Nintendo 64? I sure did. I still have that game. I can have my dad pull it out for me when I go home next. Great to hear. I need to eat like 2,500 to 3,000 calories to feel satisfied. So I am till satiety. So I am wondering if you feel full. I do. I would say that eating higher protein to fat helps me feel full because physically it's just more voluminous. There's less calories per gram or whatever. Ugh, the game Rules was my childhood. I definitely remember playing that quite often. That was a good game. I also really liked Bomberman. That was my other favorite Nintendo 64 game. When I was in high school, I had a TV in my bed and I would play Bomberman at night, and it was the best. Do you ever do cheat days with veg or carbs, etc.? So not really. That said, I did have cheesecake this past week. It was kind of an experiment to see how I would handle the insulin spike. Long story short, I didn't feel great. But I think that's because it was a pumpkin cheesecake, so it had a lot of vegetable in it. But no, typically I don't have cheat days. I really haven't since the beginning of October. It's also interesting to think about quote-unquote cheat days on carnivore, because if hypercarnivory in the wild is defined as eating 75% or more of your calories from animal food, you could technically cheat and still be a carnivore. So it's really just how you frame it and what you consider a cheat day. I never crave vegetables though, so I don't see why I would add those in. I heard the carnivory diets can overload the kidneys. What do you think about it? My kidney function is great. I actually have a doctor who's overseeing my carnivore diet. He's typically a keto doctor, so when I went to him with the carnivore thing, it was a little bit different for him. But yeah, everything is being overseen and I'm perfectly healthy. I do think if you have like some sort of kidney disease, you should talk to a doctor regardless, but you should talk to a doctor about it if you're worried about it. I think that's helpful. I love champagne cheddar cheese, but not sure if it qualifies as carnivore. So again, I think carnivore is interesting because a lot of people who come to carnivore come from a keto background. And so they consider the macros the most important thing. Like when you're eating keto, you want a certain percentage of fat so that you are in ketosis, whereas carnivore, it's about eating the animal products. Yeah, I think it's interesting to hear about different carnivore routines too, especially since there's so many different approaches. Like you see those people who eat a ton of steak, and yeah, I love steak. Or you see people like me who maybe eats more leaner proteins, and you just kind of have to figure out what works for you and your goals. And that's another point too, is like some people can handle certain things better than others. Like if you are battling an autoimmune issue, you might not ever be able to eat things like dairy or cheese. And it's just a matter of balancing what you consider most important. Are you more committed to your health or more committed, to having a quote unquote normal diet? Although hopefully I showed you with Ultrafeast that carnivore can also be pretty freaking amazing. Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed Ultrafeast Live and Let Dine, Ultrafeast 2021. I am going to go ahead and post this in my IGTV along with part 1 where we had some technical difficulties. And yeah, thank you guys so much for joining. I hope you have a very happy new year. If you're just starting carnivore, you have any questions, please message me. I would be happy to talk to you and share my experiences with you. And yeah, I just really appreciate you and this community. And I've been carnivore. Today is my 1-year carnivore anniversary. And it's been really amazing. This year has been so dynamic for me. I've had a lot of changes, a lot of good, a lot of bad, and I really think that carnivore has changed my life for the better. And I'm really excited to see what happens in 2021. All right, guys, I hope you have a very happy new year. Thanks for joining, and I guess I'll see you next time I do a live. All right, guys, bye.